Hi guys, here I am for Mask Monday. I've just had a shower and sort of roughly scrunched the curly hair, and I'm looking so glamorous for a Monday. Anyway, my name's Fawn, this is my channel, it's a happy place. Please do join in if you think you might like the sort of things that I do. So Mask Monday. Those of you that watch my B&M haul will know I picked up the polar bear mask. It's a cucumber face mask. I'm going to see if there's anything more on it. It was only £1. It's by Skin Techniques. I've already washed my face and everything. It's a 15-minute treatment. No, seems fairly standard. So let's go for it. So that floral one, I'm sure it was good, but I didn't really see any difference. Oh gosh, it made me itch. Oh, I've got a feeling this might actually have a polar bear face on it. Right, let's see. Oh, it has. Oh dear, I am going to look bananas. But never mind. If it works, it can be as cutesy as it wants to be. Right. Look at that. Oh my gosh, they're so cold though when you put them on. I always wonder whether some of the benefits of this is in the coldness. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, is it on right? Yes, it is. Just about see, just about feel. I look like a polar bear, apparently. So, the question this week. Well, again, I can't think who asked it. I got a feeling it was Kimmy that said, how long have I lived on a farm? And I thought, well, that's a good question, because I don't live on a farm. My British subscribers and people who've been to Britain will know that in the UK, land, we don't have a lot of it. We really don't. We are a very small country with a massive population. And there are some areas of the UK where there's a bit of land, but not many, and they, you know, you couldn't work there. And so like most people, I grew up very much a city girl. I grew up in Cardiff, slap dab in the centre of Cardiff. I mean, my school didn't have playing fields. We used to have to go across to the local park. There were agreements that we used what was called the rec, which is the green fields. They were where we did our sports, because our school only had a bit of cement or tarmac yard, because it was so built up, which a lot of people always look at me and go off when I say that, but literally there was no green at my school. So I grew up never having gardens, always wanting them, always wishing, and I mean, most people, even in the UK, do better than I did for gardens growing up, but we do have very small gardens generally, because land is just at such a premium. You would not believe the price per acre. I never had pets, and I was determined that my children wouldn't grow up like that. I think pets are of huge benefit to kids. Teach them to look after something, gives them something to love, gives them something to confide in when, you know, when life gets a little tough and you don't want to turn to mum or dad, or maybe can't. So we always had, you know, I always had pets, cats and dogs, guinea pigs, hamsters, rabbits, you know, we had them all. But the really sort of big change was when we bought Danny the Wonder Horse, for my daughter, because I have a policy that no animal comes into my home and is then sort of got rid of once it's not, well, I mean, I'm not needed. That's not even the right thing to say. I can't say what I mean, but I just mean if an animal comes here, it's a forever home. They're my pet forevermore. And we love Danny very much. So when my daughter started college, and you know, there was a potential that she was going to go to university, etc., you know, I had this horse, and I knew this horse was now my problem, really. And I wanted a companion for him, so we got Dora, who I showed in a video, who gave us a foal very unexpectedly. So I went from one horse to a horse, a pony and a foal overnight, virtually. And we lived in a house and we rented a field. but it was always difficult because we didn't own the field. We did an awful lot of work on the field, new gates, new this, new that, and the guy that owned it would still be really funny with us sometimes, and sort of letting us know how lucky we were that we were able to rent this field, because in the countryside, farmers, unless they ride themselves, that's the only exception, don't like horses. They can't see any point in them. They use a lot of land up. They're not kind to the land either, horses. They can be a bit rough on the land. So finding a field that you could rent for a horse was really, really difficult. And he knew he had us over a barrel. And we had wanted to cut down a couple of trees that were in the field or bordered the field on his boundary, and he wouldn't let us. And we had pointed out that one of the trees was a sycamore, which is poisonous to horses. They have the little wing, it's the seed pod. And he wouldn't let us. So we had always put up electric fencing around that tree when it was in seed, when it was and Danny had always respected that. He'd stayed away from it. He doesn't like electric shocks, and we thought it would be fine. And what actually happened was that the foal, Daisy, who we call Woolly Woolly, ate some sycamore, and she died. And it was horrific. It cost me an absolute fortune. I was determined to try and save her. She went into sort of horsey intensive care quite a long way from here. I don't want to say what the bills were. They were ridiculous. I mean, they're absolutely insane, but she did die. And that sort of solidified in my head that I needed my own field. I needed a field I owned, that nobody could tell me what I could and couldn't do. I was never going to have that sort of thing happen again. And at the same time, my father was very ill. My dad had something that is commonly called miner's lung, but is IPF. My father wasn't a miner. And he'd had it for many years. He had heart problems, and then he had this problem with his breathing. And I could see that my dad was getting frailer. My mother can't drive and is a bit flaky. They always used to joke that my dad's body would give out, but his brain would still be intact. My mother's brain would be long gone, and she'd still be fighting on physically because she's a very fit woman. And they had come to live near us, partly because of them, partly because I had been unwell. As I said in my intro all that time ago, I did suffer from mental health issues for a little bit there. Still have them. I think I'll always have them, a bit like a diabetic always has them. But I am past them, through them, living with them, whatever. So my brother had also left. There's only me. My parents only have me and my brother. And my brother had moved to Alabama, Mobile, Alabama, USA, with his American wife and my two nephews. So there was only me left to care for our parents. So I thought, right, let's combine all of this together. Let's just think this through. I need a home where I can have an annex for my parents. I need a home with a field for my horse, or horse and pony by this time. I want a forever home for myself. I've moved an awful lot in my life, an awful lot, and it has never benefited me. It was a very difficult thing. I think it contributed to my feelings of loneliness and anxiety and so on. I don't have a big family. We're not a close family. And I had never had somewhere that I put roots down, and I knew that the next time I left this place, you know, actually left, I don't mean pop down the road to the shops, but the next time I left would be in a pine box. I needed that feeling. I'd never had that feeling. I'd never experienced it, not as a child, not as an adult. We moved a lot when I was a kid as well. So we started looking, and that's how we ended up here to get to where we are. So that's how we ended up here. This place has a little over 10 acres, which is not a lot. Come on guys, 10 acres, it's not a lot. But to me, because I remember saying as a kid, being asked about where did you want to live one day, it was a question in school, and causing great hilarity. And I remember my picture being put up on the wall and everything, because the teacher thought it was funny. I can see why it was funny now. At the time I was like, what's the problem? saying I wanted to live somewhere where I could have a tree. It was an ambition to have a tree in the garden. So yeah, we found this place, 10 acres, which is quite, you know, it's a good size for the UK. I mean, obviously there are places with hundreds of acres and thousands of acres if you're going to Scotland, but you know, for here, it's a lot. So we moved in, and we moved in with my half a dozen chickens that I had, Danny and Dora. The horse and the pony. My chickens quickly grew to 20-25 chickens. We dug a pond here. I wanted a pond, and I spent a lot of money on beautiful water lilies. And then my daughter came to me and said, "Oh Mum, have you ever thought about having ducks?" And I thought, well, no, I haven't, and ducks are really funny. Maybe I should get some ducks. So I got 3 ducks, I think it was, and within about 3 weeks there was not a water lily to be seen. They'd eaten the bloody lot. I only ever saw one water lily flower came up, and was quickly eaten. And my 3 ducks have now progressed. I think we've got about 12, and every year we end up with some wild ducks that come and stay and have their babies, nest, and then they disappear again. They're mostly Indian runner ducks, but we do have some others as well. Some of them were bred, but an awful lot of them are rescued ducks from duck egg factories. So when they come here for the first time, those ones, they don't have the weatherproofing in their fur, in their feathers, so they can't go straight out onto the water. We have to keep them in for a few days. And they usually are very frightened of the water. I mean, that just shows how mad the world is, that a duck can be frightened of water. It boggles my mind, and it takes them a while to settle in, but eventually they do settle in and they love it, and they live on the water, and we don't really have to do very much with them. We feed them every day. We don't put them in a house overnight. They're very canny. We've never lost a duck to a fox. We've lost our chickens to foxes many times. We have foxes that come onto the land. We then ended up with, the next thing was 2 sheep. We now have 3. What happened after that? Then we got 2 little ponies for the boys to ride. Before that we had Stella, the big horse, then 2 ponies. Then Stella had a baby. Then we got 2 goats. Then we got another 2 goats. So I haven't done all my animals yet. Well, I'm waiting for a dry day. We're having really British weather over here at the moment, which is wet, murky, misty. You wouldn't be able to see the animals. It wouldn't be a good, there's not a lot of point in me showing you. But I've ended up with all these animals. Lots of dogs. I have 2 dogs. My daughter has 3. I have a cat. She's got a cat. We've got several feral cats that live here. And I will never leave here. I will never leave here. It will be pine box territory. I know I can't stop fiddling with this mask. It will be pine box territory when I leave here, because this is my home, and it's the first true home I have ever had. It took me, I was 48, 49 when we bought it. Never had a home before. But no one can make me leave. My animals can stay here, grow old here, die here, be buried here. We already have the beginnings of a little cemetery here. We already have 2 dogs and a cat that are buried. We have an area. Each one gets a rose on top. It's a beautiful little secluded piece. I love my land. I love my home. It gives me a lot of joy. Sorry. When we bought this place, we bought it because it already had what we could turn into a great annex for my parents. They have a massive big bedroom sitting area, their own bathroom, their own kitchen, a lovely lounge. They are completely self-contained but attached to my house. And it gives me a lot of joy to know that my dad was here and knows that my mum is safe. My mother was my father's everything. Yeah, nobody was more loved than my mother. My father, she was his world. And I know that he worried a lot, and he didn't have to worry in the end, because we're here, we're all around her, we look after her. And I know that gave him some peace at the end. And I am able to see my father, see the places where he would sit and watch the animals. He loved watching all the building work going on here, because we had to do a lot of renovations. He loved, you know, getting involved in it all. Not that he could do anything. He was not a well man, but he was involved, and everyone chatted to him, and he loved the animals too. So this now is it's sort of tattooed on my heart, this place. I could never leave. I wind my husband up sometimes by saying, oh, the next house we have should have such and such, and he's like, oh my God, you don't want to move, do you? And the truth is, no, I don't. Anything that I want to change, I will change here, because I could never leave here now. My father is scattered here, his ashes were scattered here. My mum has her little home here, so I'm able to look after her. And we even ended up renovating one of the buildings. I can't believe we did it in the end, but that's where my daughter, her husband and my grandchildren live. So we are like a little enclave. We're like a little enclave here. The only one that's not here, who I wish was my oldest daughter, who lives in London. She is not a country girl. She likes to see the animals, but, you know, a bit like going to the zoo or something. She's like, oh yeah, lovely, but, you know. So this is not a farm. It's more of an asylum for damaged animals. Yeah, just about everything here is rescue animal, and they will stay here forever and die here, just like me. I'm a rescue animal too, and I will stay here and die here, and that makes me very, very happy. And let me take this mask off. Next week, I am not doing a sheep mask. I'm going to do one of those rub-in masks, because I like get on with them. So yeah, that's the story of my home. I'm like a winkle in its shell now. You'd need a pin to force me out. So this is my place, and I spend my time planning where I'm going to plant a tree, or at the moment, which fields need some drainage put in. And I love it, and it gives me that peace and that grounding that I never had. My life was always as a child, it felt very insecure, because we moved a lot, and it felt very, yeah, I felt very sort of almost anchorless, you know, rootless as a kid. It was very nerve-wracking. And to know that I will see out the rest of my life here is a wonderful thing. My eldest daughter plans on travelling with work again soon. She would have been in China now if it hadn't been for the pandemic. So there is travel in my future, because wherever she goes, I will have to go and see her. I couldn't not. For someone who's afraid of travel, I'm not good with it, I'm not great with planes and things like that. I got on a plane to Japan once and spent Christmas with my daughter, took my younger daughter, just me and my younger daughter got on the plane, went to Japan and spent Christmas there, so that my eldest daughter wasn't alone. I couldn't have borne to see Christmas through without my girls. So it doesn't really matter where she goes. I know I'll go. I'll tie myself in knots before I go. I'll tie myself in knots while I'm there, and I'll be so relieved when I come back. But I will go. So yeah, that's my house, and I will do a lot more. I sort of wish now that I'd done a lot more filming in the summer outside, but I didn't know if people would be interested. But I now not only have one tree, I have a lot of trees, and I actually have an oak tree, an English oak tree in the field where the sheep live, which I definitely will show you at some point, that is over 400 years old, and I'm so proud of it. I'd love to put my name on it so that I stay as long as it does, but I won't. It's 400 years old. You can't go carving into something that's 400 years old. So I have achieved my life's ambition of having a house with a tree. Anyway, I don't know how I'm going to edit this down. I think this is going to be a bit of a nightmare to edit because I have chanted for far too long. As for the mask, it was very nice. It did not itch. It didn't itch. It just kept moving because I was talking. But it feels really cool. It's settling into the skin beautifully. I would happily use that mask again, although I'm not sure about the face on it. But there we go. That's me. That's Mask Monday. That's my home. It's just a house in the country. So I hope you're all well. I hope you're all happy. I hope I haven't bored you too much. Okay, guys. Love you. Bye.